So as you guys know, we went to Sosua, Dominican Republic on June 20th through the 25th. And as soon as we arrived, we got to meet the team. But before we even got there, we could see God's hand at work. The plane we were originally supposed to get on in Miami was put out of service, and I'm sure for good reason. And that gave us time at the airport to meet these beautiful people you see all in here. They are a team from North Dakota. And I forget the exact town they're from because I never heard of it before, even though they said it 100 times. Super godly young adults. The guy with the curly hair and the glasses in the front is the young adults pastor. So everybody on the team was either in college or have graduated college. So that was a blessing for our family before we even got into the mission, because those kids, or young men and women, ministered a lot to my kids. The young adults pastor used to be a oh my goodness, he used to do news. And there's a word that I'm going blank on, but he is really good with asking deep questions and just to keep on digging. And one day I got to walk by when we were back at our guest house, and he is asking Nathan, so Nathan, if your faith is really real, how are you going to make that continue to grow while you're away in school? And you know, Nathan answered him and said, well, I'm planning to do Young Life in Georgia Southern. And he goes, okay, well, that's a good start, but how else is God going to be real to you while you're in school? So to me, I just wanted to go and cry, because that was like awesome to have him asking him these deep questions and talking to him. Lucas really clicked with most of the guys, and really clicked with the guys in the other picture. The one with the yellow shirt, that's Brian. And the one with the white shirt, that's Larry, with the black shorts. Both of those boys have grown up in the CUPS ministry. At one point, they were the kids that CUPS International was going to minister to in the villages. They are now in their 20s and serving as leaders and studying to be pastors. And so they really connected with the kids as well. And of course, Leah just clicked with all the girls, with everybody. She's our social butterfly. So right from the get-go, God was already, this was the perfect team for us to be connected with to serve for that week. So day one, as soon as we landed, we went to Zion Village. And this is us with all the suitcases with donations. And as soon as we got there, they asked us to get right to work. And we got to sort everything that we brought, all the medical supplies, sewing supplies, school supplies, shoes, clothing, food supplies. All of that got sorted right there in that community center. The next two pictures are just pictures that were taken as we were in the drive around town. If you've been following us on Facebook, the pictures, some of the pictures are going to be different, just because I couldn't get them to get on here. But this is just driving through the town. So we were on the back of a long pickup with a roof and two long benches, and there was 16 of us. So no seatbelts, nothing closing the back closed. There was a chain that went around the back. And so we had a running joke. The chain is on, we are all now safe. Not really true, but that was our little joke. And if you see on the third picture here, taken in the sites, motorcycles. Motorcycles is the biggest means of transportation there. When the guys can afford to buy a motorcycle, they now become taxi drivers, and they have had up to 13 people on one motorcycle. Really, really safe. Okay, so Day two, we got up early and we were making peanut butter sandwiches. We were going to go to Noa Navajo. That is the village, and we were going to be ministering to the Haitian people that have been displaced from Haiti because of the earthquakes and all the just everything that's going on in Haiti. So the hunger, there's no work, and they do not have a welfare system or any kind of social system like that to help them. So a lot of them have fled to Dominican Republic, and the Dominicans are not happy that they're there. They are very racist against them. And so they are at the dump looking for food and looking for things that they can use to recycle and get paid for the recycling. So the kids here at the guest house are making sandwiches. We are going to take those sandwiches, and in the last picture, we are filling up water jugs because the water in DR is not drinkable. So it has to be filtered before they can drink it. And so we brought a truck with a huge tank on it, full of water, and they were bringing their jugs. And it was sad because it was laundry detergent jugs, it was bleach jugs, and they weren't really clean, you know. So it was sad to see that. And a lot of these people used to live in the dump, but the government didn't like how that looked, so they gave them a piece of land and said you can live here, but they did not give them housing. And so the next, I think the next picture, oh no, this is still at the dump. So this young man Ruben is with is one of the guys working at the dump. You see people behind him with bags. The next picture, we had brought hot soup. A lot of the Haitians don't have food to eat. So when we go to the dump, we give them a hot soup, peanut butter sandwiches for them to take, and bananas. And obviously, if they have something to carry water in, we give them water. And it was really hot and the sun was always up. One of the guys told us in the Dominican, the sun is always blue because it doesn't rain that much. And it really didn't rain for the whole time we were there. And then we saw this, we took a picture of the sun with the rainbow, a full circle rainbow around it. We just thought that was neat. This was what we saw when we were at the dump. And it was just a reminder of God's promises. And we got to share with the people at the dump, you know, to look up. So that was kind of neat as we share God's word with them, and got to pray with a few of the people that we gave the food to. But that was hard because as soon as a garbage truck pulled in to dump their stuff out, everybody would run to that truck to see what was new that had come from that truck. Now in DR, it's mostly septic, so nobody flushes their toilet paper that is used. There is medical waste. All of that is in this garbage. So it's not a safe place to walk because you can step on something and really do some damage. It's not clean for you to dig through. You know, you're not going to the recycling center and digging through. It's really disgusting. And it was just really sad because there were kids digging through the garbage as well. So day 3, we went to Noa Navajo. So Noa Navajo, if you can see on the middle picture next to Lucas, there is a bright blue building. That is the community center that CUPS International has put up. And on the first floor, there is a bakery where they teach the young men and women how to bake, so that they can open up a baking business, whether they do pizzas or they make bread or they make cakes, just a form of income. They can create micro businesses. The first picture is the Campamento de Verano, that's summer camp. And that is at every village that CUPS has built. So they come into a village that are shacks and tarps, and they build a community center. And in the community center, there's going to be a bakery. There is going to be a sewing center, and there is going to be a community room where they start small groups, where they do discipleship, and eventually they have church. So that's that building right there. It's not a good picture of the building. The kids were insane. They just wanted to be wherever we were. They wanted to hold our hand. I thought this was funny, but they called me a gringa, and they said, "That's my gringa. Nobody touch her hand. That's my hand." Um, and I've never been called that before. So I was like, "Hey, I'm going to wear that with honor. You can call me that all day long." But the kids just wanted to, we felt we were there to love on them, but we totally walked away being loved by them. They had so much love to give. It was mind blowing. And as we were walking through the village, on this last picture here, wherever you see a brick building, that is influence of Cups International, where they have been able to raise funds and start building houses, actual houses for the people. Otherwise, it's wooden shacks with whatever they can put up as a shelter. And the entire house is composed of one room on a dirt floor with a makeshift roof. So here is still at La Union Navajo. We are praying in the middle picture with the pastor that is over this village. So what CUPS does is they come in, and once they establish a community center, and they put a pastor in charge. So they will not open a new village until they have a pastor to go into that village and to be able to be there 24/7, ministering and working with the families and the kids. The kids, like I said, they just kind of glued onto us. These are two of my favorite with Lucas and Leah. Leah's little girl, she saw Leah, she lifted up her, like she grabbed Leah's arm, and she said, "Look, we're sisters, we're the same." Now, clearly, Leah's a little bit lighter than her. But Leah was so excited, and she just hugged Leah the whole time. A lot of these kids' parents are very young, and they have multiple kids, so there's not a lot of nurturing that happens in their little homes. So if you're 4 or 5, you're too old to be carried. And the fact that our team came in and wanted to carry them, the older kids would come and say, "You're too old, you need to get down." And our team would say, "No, it's okay, we can hold you, we can just hug you, you know." And to them that was huge, because nobody hugs them, nobody holds them. Just to hold their hand and to carry them was a huge deal. Also in this village, I don't think I have a picture of that, when we were in their community center, because they have a basketball court as well, they do basketball ministry. While the boys were playing with the kids, all the girls on the team got to sit on the side. All the little Haitian girls came and did our hair. They took our hairs down and they started braiding it. They are discriminated against, so the Dominican girls do not allow a Haitian to touch their hair. And the fact that our team, you know, with lots of blonde hair and brown hair, was, yeah, do my hair, make my braid, make a mess of it, it's okay. They couldn't believe that we would allow them to do that. And so to us, I'm like, how can we not? And so what we saw at this village is their houses, if you think of a small bedroom in your house, their entire house is half of that. And so when we would go into a Haitian home that does not know Christ, it was darkness. There was just a hopelessness in their face. Because we went in, we brought rice and oil to each home, and we asked, "What can we pray for you? We want to pray for you." And there was just this, they would say different things, my family, my kids, but there was just this hopelessness. And then right next door, you would go into a different home where their kids have been involved with CUPS. They have come to Christ. The parents have now come to Christ, and they don't have anything more than the previous home, but there is such a light, there was such a joy in that home because of Christ. So it was just such a different atmosphere because of what Christ can do, and not materially, it was spiritually and in their hearts. But we can visually see that. That was very impactful. One of the things that we talked about was how would we pray if we were in their shoes? So that was one of the questions we asked the team when we got back to the guest house that night. Is, you know, we prayed for them, we prayed with them, but how would we individually pray if we were in their shoes? So the next day, we went to Viacio Nativa. So again, just kind of showing you, this is the bakery. And the guy in the plaid shirt in the middle picture, that is Jack. He is the co-founder of Cups International. And so he had come down for our week, and he was there with us the entire time, kind of guiding us through and taking us to each village during the week. So you can see here, it's a full kitchen. He's pointing to a industrial oven for the baking. And he was telling us that the guys who are now leaders and studying to be pastors, they each have a baking business. Brian makes bread, and Larry makes pizza after hours, and then they deliver them. And if I go back, oh, sorry, I don't know how to go back. Oh, here it is. If I go back to here, so this pastor in the middle with the green shirt, they make the bread. Him and his wife make bread, and then they take it to the Haitian village where they have nothing. And he had to stop taking it during the evening or the daytime because the Haitian mob, for a lack of a better word, would steal all his bread that were going to the kids who have nothing. They said, you have a choice. You give us the bread, or we take the bread and you die. And so, so now they still make the bread. They prepare it off to bring to the village. And he goes out at 3 a.m, and he takes all the bread at 3 a.m to the village and puts it in the community center so that he's not encountering these guys on the road. Okay, and so so this last picture here is at this village, Ciona Riva, and this is just an example of a village that has been built up through Cups International. There is a couple of Samaritan ministries that come out and join them as well. And so they've been able to build these brick houses, and different teams over the years have been able to come out and actually paint them. So they look it looks really nice. And this team right here is praying. You can't see Ruben, but that's him in the blue shirt. You can just see his arm. And so God was really able to use us as translators. There was no one on our teams that spoke Spanish other than the kids who are leaders in the program, but they weren't always available. So Ruben and I usually got split. I went with one team, he went with another, and we did a lot of translating, which was good. However God wanted to use us, that's why we were there. This is at Village Ciona Riva. This is an example of the sewing center. The guy in the burgundy shirt in the middle picture, that is Daniel. He's a missionary. He's Mexican. Him and his wife and their 3 kids have moved to Dominican Republic, and they run all of the administrative and receiving all the teams that come in and week out. So he was with us this morning, and the sewing program is called Sewing for Souls. The girls are taught how to sew. They're taught to make bags and bracelets and backpacks, all kinds of little things so that they can sell. Again, the goal is to help them create micro businesses so that they are able to support themselves. And because of the sewing program and the baking program, the kids who are growing up in the program are now able to attend college and pursue a career, where that was not something that was even an option for them before. This last picture here is the Cup store. They actually have a physical store. Not every village has a store. I think we saw 3, but this is an example. It's just one counter, and right behind the counter, there's just a couple things hanging on the wall and on a shelf, and that's the entire store. But the cool story about this building, where the store is at, above the store, there used to be a brothel, and Cups had purchased the property right next door. That's where the community center is, and they spent lots and lots of hours praying. The building now has a pregnancy center above, the store on the bottom, and a little private clinic that does pro bono work on the other side. So God has redeemed that building through prayer, and it's now being used to serve Him, which is really cool to see. So that same day, we had movie night at a different village. This was on the top of a mountain, and it was in a basketball court. That you can't really see it really well. These are not the best pictures, but it is a basketball court. And on the first picture, one of our team members is giving her testimony. If you were on my Facebook, you got to see Lucas also shared his testimony. And for us, that was huge. It was Lucas's first time sharing his testimony in public. And we happened to be able to be there and to hear him. Because my kids are hearing all these testimonies, and when they had to write theirs, they were like, but Mom, we don't really have a testimony. We grew up in a Christian home. We got saved when we were young. There's not really much of a story. But the kids, the young adults who were there, some of them have a similar testimony, and they spoke into our kids saying how privileged they are that they have a similar testimony, because God has protected them from so much, and how God has a purpose for them, and He's going to use them. So it's just the start of their story. It's not a one and end all. And so everybody's story is a little bit different, but for them to be proud of their story, because God has been working on them since they were tiny. The whole gym, we probably had about 100 kids there. Everybody comes, and you would not think that we could get 100 kids to sit quiet in a hot basketball court to watch a Voice of the Martyrs video for 30 minutes. But they did. They sat down and they were snuggling with all of us. They were doing our hairs again, but they were watching. And when the movie finished, the pastor is actually in the first picture. He is the one with the beige shirt. He's not looking at the camera. His wife is right in front of him with the baby. He would come up after the movie and ask questions concerning the movie, and every hand was up. They knew exactly what happened in that movie. And when each of our team members shared a testimony, he also asked questions. One of the kids grew up without a dad, and that was part of his testimony. And our team was a little bit shocked when the question was, so did Jaden have a dad? And all the hands are going up in the air. Jaden's like, he's going to make me cry because I didn't have a dad. But all the kids were into it. They were so excited. They knew the answer. They had listened to the testimony. And so the gospel is definitely being shared. These community centers are where they have summer camp and where they start the discipleship. They try to get the kids in as young as 4 into these camps, all the way through 18. And they introduce them to the basketball, the baking, and the sewing. This is another day. They went to Alto de la Jolla Village. It was a 3-mile steep hike. I got sick that day before. I think I picked something up at the airport. And so by Wednesday, I think this was Wednesday, I was pretty down and out. and I had a horrible headache. So Ruben's like, I don't think you should go. You should stay back. And I did. So he went with the team. They climbed up this mountain. And if you can see his shirt in the middle, they had just gotten at the top of the mountain. All of them looked like that. And they got to go into the schools, and different team members were sharing their testimony. Ruben is there translating. And then they also got to paint the new community center that was built. So this 3-mile hike is really steep. It's got loose gravel, so it's very easy to fall. And there is no way to get a truck up there. So the way this community center was built, every time somebody came up, they brought 2 cinder blocks, every single person, for about 2 years. This was going on. Every team that came to visit brought up blocks until they built this community center. And there's a pastor and his wife. They go up there 3 times a week. And the next step for this community is to start having a church up there. And so they have the pastor, they have his wife, and they're ready to go. And then this last one was Village Paraiso. The pastor for this village is the guy in the center in front of the banner. His name is Guillermo. He used to be a pimp. His wife used to be a prostitute, and the Lord saved them. And he hated kids. He never wanted to be around kids before Christ. And now he is leading hundreds of kids. And so this is him sharing his testimony. And this is our team getting the basketball court ready for summer camp. And let's see. Okay. And so that's all the pictures I have. I do have a gazillion other pictures, but this kind of gives you a little snapshot. The last day was the hardest day for all of us. It was the day we went to the red light district. So all this time we've been working with the kids, we've been going to the villages, we've been working with the pastors and seeing what they're doing on the ground week in and week out. And we just came in and did what was needed for them. But the red light district, we walked the streets in groups. There's 3 or 4 girls in each group and 3 or 4 guys in each group. And what we would do is walk up to a young lady who was working the streets, and we would say, introduce ourselves. We had cold bottled water. And so we would ask them if they wanted a drink. We would give them a bottle of water, and then we would just do small talk and eventually say, how can we pray for you? And a lot of them want to get off the streets. They don't want to do that. We would ask them how old they were, and they were 14, 15, 16, 17. And that was just heartbreaking. So the reason this ministry does what they do is so that these girls don't end up there. And it made a full circle when we did that red light district. But it's not just the girls, it's the boys too. If there's a little boy walking around with a shoebox, not a shoebox, like a wooden box to do shoe shining, that was the code that he was out there for work. And he wasn't going to be shining any shoes. And we prayed with so many girls, so many women, and they have bought into the lie that an American person is going to come and marry them and sweep them off the street, and they never have to do that again. They're looking for Prince Charming to show up. And a lot of them know about Jesus. Some of them grew up in church but they weren't discipled. And they say, yes, I want to pray. I want you to pray for my kids at home. But this is my job. I'm working right now. And they weren't ashamed. They knew there was just sadness when we spoke to them. And, when we would get around them, the girls would face the girl that we were talking to, and the guys would stand behind us, back to back with us, to keep a lookout in case somebody got upset that we were talking to them, or, we weren't letting them work. And so thank the Lord, nothing happened. Nobody did anything. But there was a section of the street when we would walk that you just felt the air was heavy. There was just this just evil prevailed. And the look in the people's eyes that were out there looking for these girls, it was sickening. When we got back, we had to debrief because that was hard. Leah did not go because she picked up whatever I had. And we think that that was God's mercy and protection over her because she's too young to see that. And I don't think we would have, I don't think we would have thought through not to take her if she wasn't feeling good. Does that make sense? Like, we didn't know how this was going to be. And once we went, we knew that God had protected her from seeing that and being exposed to that. And so the reason that they do everything is to raise up godly men and women and give them a trade so that they have options. They're able to have a job. They're able to support themselves. They're able to better themselves, but they also are able to know that the streets is not the only option for them. And all the leaders they have currently working in the program on the field, except for the pastors, are in their 20s and have grown up in this program. And so God is all over this. He is all over this. And just to see the kids in the villages, to work with these young men and women alongside them, these missionaries that are on the ground, was such a privilege and an honor to be there. So that's all I have. So you can pray for us. We are gonna go back. Lucas wants to go back for a month, and it impacted him so much that he said, "Mom, we need to go back, but I want to be there for at least a month." And Ruben and I are praying because there is a need for a bilingual couple to move there. So I don't know if that's what God's calling us to. That is something we are starting to pray about for the next year and just see where the Lord leads. But there is a need for a bilingual couple to be on the ground to work with each of the teams that come in to take them around, because when the missionaries and the pastors come out to be with the teams, we're taking them away from the work that they need to be doing. And so they need another couple on the ground there that will handle all the teams, that knows the Latin culture and knows the American culture and can relate both ways. So that is just something you can join with us for prayer, because we don't know how the Lord wants us to continue, but we definitely want to go back.
You have a timetable for when you might go back?
Well, we definitely are looking at going back next summer.
Okay.
We are going to be talking to Jack and Mike, who are the founders, to see, if we could do more than a week, and just be able to, because Jack and Mike lives in Florida and Jack lives in South Carolina. They fly out to DR every week to be with the teams. So to alleviate the missionaries on the ground so that they can do the work that they're doing, because they're currently doing discipleship. They're doing different activities with everything going on. And so Jack and Mike are on the ground every week with the teams, taking them through everything that we did. And they do have an office in Greenville, South Carolina. They have the home office is on the state side. And Daniel, the Mexican missionary that's there, he oversees everything in DR, on the DR side of it. So timeline would be next summer. But we don't know how, because there's a lot of moving pieces that would have to fall in place.
I bet Ruben could put a nice epoxy floor in that basketball court.
Yes, we don't know how we could get epoxy over there, but yes.
One block at a time.
So one thing that you guys can do is, let me just find it real quick. They do have a website. It's cupsmission.com. It's their website. And they have a store that you can purchase the stuff that they make, that the sewing program makes. They make bags, sling bags, like tote bags, backpacks. They make jewelry, bracelets, headbands, and then there is like t-shirts with the mission stuff on it. All of that goes to support the ministry there. So that's something, if you wanted to look further. Also, you can go on their website, on that same website, and you can read about each and every one of the missionaries on the ground and see the work that they're doing. So,
Where did they get their fabric from?
anywhere and everywhere. So I didn't know, fabric was not on our list of supplies that they needed, but when we got there, there were quite a few suitcases full of fabric. So somebody knew they needed fabric.
Okay.
I now know. So now I will be bringing fabric when we come back.
All right. Well, if you'd let us know, or I don't know how we would get it there, but I'm sure I could donate some fabric.
Okay.
When the time
Yeah.
comes, or however you think.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely praying for the missionaries on the ground is a huge help. They have their work cut out for them. When we were at the red light district, Ruben said it best. We were at the belly of the beast. We were not welcomed there. They did not want to see us there. You know, we knew we were being watched the entire time we were walking the streets. So these guys are really, they need all our prayers, because the work that they're doing with these kids, and you can see in the families, you know, when you walk into their houses and they have nothing, but there's such a joy compared to the family that has not joined the program yet, and they have not come to Christ yet. The despair and the hopelessness that's in their faces. So it's, and their, you know, their motto is save a child, transform a family, do it again tomorrow.